All provisions 115 TD से लेके TD है TE TF. There are 3 sections. We've discussed everything. I've read only some things from the book. Balance reading, I've left it to you guys. Comfortable with everything, guys? Okay. Now the discussion of planning. The last thing that I'll speak to you guys. I am going to portray this planning, give a technique to you under an assumption that you have a 5 months of study leave. For all of you who have less than 5 months of study leave, I will give that will be the second part of my discussion where I will tell you how can you adapt to this plan, make some suitable changes and still achieve the objective. Your exams are in May 2021. So your 5 months of study leave are starting from 1st of December 2020 and they go on up to 30th April 2021. The broad planning that I'm wanting to give is target number 1. Up to 10th of February 2021, your first study should get over. First study, the preliminary study. From 11th February 2021 to 28th February 2021, which is a span of 18 days, you will write papers. And you will write papers in the exact same manner as the ICAI timetable. ICAI timetable. So from 11th February to 28th February, select any 8 days, keeping a gap of 1 day. So you can probably write 20th February ko IDT, then 26th February ko DT, and then work out the timetable reverse. What this means is that in the last 18 days of February, 16 days are being used up for writing papers. You can use 1 day as a relaxation. You completed the syllabus on 10th of February. 11th of February, take a holiday. Do not study anything even for a single minute. Take it as a break. From 1st of December 2020 to 10th of February 2021, practically speaking, you have been constantly studying. So 11th of February, you take a gap. 12th February, you begin studying and write a paper, FR paper, for example, 13th Feb, 15th Feb, 17th Feb, 21st Feb, and like this, you make a timetable. At your home, create an exam environment, 3 hours or 4 hours in case of that elective paper. Study in the same manner as you are going to study during your May exams. You will get 1.5 day from paper number 2 to paper number 8. First paper, you will have a lot of time in your May exams. But in these 18 days, write papers at home. For DT and IDT, and to some extent FR also. If there are various amendments, and there are, you will be facing 2020 ka budget. Past exam question papers that you will have will be as per Finance Act 2019 or Finance Act 2018. कोई बात नहीं. DT हो, IDT हो, कुछ भी हो. Select a paper, all 8 papers. This is a suggestion that I'm giving you for all 8 papers. Select that paper for which a suggested answer is available with you. So when you are writing the papers in February 2021, if the upcoming exam, November 20 ka exam, question paper will be available with you. If the institute has already released the suggested answer by this date, which it will, by the time you start writing the papers, if the suggested answer of November 2020 exam is also available, write November 20 का paper or write November 19 का paper, May 20 का exam हुआ नहीं था. So write November 19 का paper, November 20 का paper, May 19 का paper, write a paper. Do not bother about the amendments for a very simple reason that as a CA final student, when you have studied the subject, you are aware that there is an amendment in section 50C. You are aware that there is an amendment in section 11. You are aware that there is an amendment in section 147 or there is an amendment in appeal. So when you will check the suggested answers with your answers, they will not match. But as a student, you are aware कि ये match नहीं होने वाला. So you can tweak the solution, the suggested solution, keeping in mind Finance Act 2020 amendment. But Finance Act 2020 has not changed the entire Income Tax Act, na? This means that there will be a lot of questions in your question paper where the suggested answer will not change. So you can cross check your answers. And the moment your answers don't match with the suggested answers, you can make a cross check. Is it due to the amendment? Advantage will be, there will be two advantages. First advantage is you will be able to make all those decisions that you have to make in the May exams. When you write a paper in February, and these are some decisions which no teacher can help you. Nobody can give you a concrete guideline of which question to attempt first and which question to attempt next. We can only give you suggestions that attempt the compulsory question last and attempt all the other questions first. But it's a suggestion. What if the compulsory question is such that you are aware of that question? You have just solved that question. You are aware about all the adjustments in that compulsory question. Then there is no need for you to defer the compulsory question later on. You can write it earlier also. So we cannot, any faculty cannot tell you the sequence of attempting the question paper. That is a judgment call that the student has to take looking at the paper. I am aware of question 3, but I don't know what question 2 is. I don't remember. Let me do question 2 later on. I am fully aware of question 3 and question 4. I should write that first. It will give me more chance to score. I know some things in the compulsory question. I don't know other things. Okay, I'll write compulsory question somewhere in between. There is question 5 which I definitely don't know. Can I leave it an option? If I can't leave it an option, let me do this right at the end. So even if I run out of time, I will miss out on writing a question which I anyways wasn't aware of. These things are judgment calls that you have to take during the paper. Second advantage of writing the paper in this time span of February is that you will get time to rectify yourself and you will get enough time for revision. Because the third thing is from 1st March 2021 to 30th April 2021, you will revise the syllabus. So in a way, this is your first study. When you will write paper, this will be your first revision. Even if it is a half-hearted revision, it is still a revision. You have devoted 1.5 days. You studied the whole syllabus. And then on the day of exam, you have written the paper. That is what you're going to do in the month of May also. So in the month of February, when you will be writing papers, you'll be doing the same thing. And then this is a formal revision, a proper full-fledged revision of your syllabus. So if a student thinks he's revising the subject twice after studying it once, if you can call this writing papers wala revision as a revision, you are revising it twice. ये तुम्हारा broad targets है. That is why it is very essential for you to finish off everything by 10th of February. so that you have 16 to 18 days to write papers and you have full-fledged 2 months to revise the 8 subjects. Now, the second set of suggestion or the second set of planning that I would want to suggest to you is the daily planning. You guys are starting in the month of December. So any student who is starting in December, I would suggest for the first week or for the first 10 days, your daily plan should be something like this. You start your day at 7:30 in the morning. Start studying at 7:30. Start studying at 7:30 and you study 7:30 to 10. It's like sitting for a lecture. 7:30 to 10 you study. This is 2.5 hours. You're going to study. Then you take a 1.5 hour break from 10 to 11:30 break Lilo. And then you start studying 11:30 and devote another 2.5 hours. Another 2.5 hours up to 2 p.m. Have your lunch. Take a proper 2 hours ka gap for lunch and maybe taking a nap. And resume your study at 4 o'clock. Resume your study 4 o'clock. And let's say you are studying 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock. 4 to 7. Proper study time of 3 hours. You would have rested. You've had your lunch also. Now you full-fledged put in 3 hours. Now take a gap. Have your dinner if possible. I mean 7 o'clock. Don't have your dinner. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm saying take a proper gap, maybe say 2 hours. And then you sit to study again. 9 p.m. And maybe if possible, can take it up to 11:30, or it would be wonderful if you can take it up to 12. This will give you another 3 hours of study. 12 midnight. And you're still starting your next day at 7:30 only. Now the advantage of this is that this is effectively 11 hours. Sorry, this is in total 11 hours. Or if I be a bit conservative and I'll make you study up to 11:30 only. So this makes it 2.5 hours. And you are putting in right from the start, 10.5 hours. Let me also warn you, output will not be equal to 10.5 hours. This is your gross time. CFNL studies are much taxing on you. CFNL studies are much theoretical. And so when you study from 7:30 in the morning to 10 o'clock, it is in terms of a clock 2.5 hours, but the output will be roughly 1 hour 45 minutes or 2 hours. There will be lapse of concentration, something that you'll have to read again and again to understand. So you will have some normal loss. But observe this, you are starting your study leave in the month of December, and the first week or first 10 days, you're putting 10.5 hours with adequate amount of break. You have a break of 1.5 hours from 10 to 11:30, 2 hours from 2 to 4, and 2 hours from 7 to 9. So effectively, your break is 5.5 hours. This means that as you go ahead, say from 11th of December to 30th of December or 31st December, you can utilize this break time into your study time. So you can probably start at 7 and go on up to 10. Instead of resuming at 11:30, you can resume at 11 and 11 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So this gave you 3 hours. This gave you 3 hours. Resume at 4 o'clock only. Continue 4 to 7. But try to maybe say start at 8:30 and 8:30 to say 11:30. So you can observe automatically without any extra effort, you've gone to 12 hours from 10.5 hours. And of course, if you can pull beyond 11:30 and take it up to 12 o'clock, you have another half an hour. Daily ka half an hour extra will matter a lot because it's not just one day that you are thinking. It is 20 days. From 11 to 31st is actually 21 days. अगर तुमको हिसाब आता है तो 21 days into 0.5 hour per day extra is 10.5 hours, which is effectively speaking one extra day. And you are aware that every extra day is going to help you in your studies. With do not go beyond 12 hours or 12.5 hours because while you are in the last 2 months, March and April, you will anyways be slogging for 13 to 14 hours. So up to February, take it up to 12 hours only a day maximum 12 hours a day. If you straight away start with 12 hours a day right from the beginning of your study leave, you will get saturated very early. And then the psychological problem will be by the time you are in the month of January, you will start feeling, yaar, I have been slogging for 12 hours a day continuously from 1st of December. I need to rest. And you will lose momentum at a time when you should be picking up momentum. Maybe I can tweak this planning and I can keep this as you were studying 10.5 hours, you take it to 11.5 hours up to December end. And then the whole month of January, you put 12 hours every day. This will help you to achieve your target of 10th of February. You are having December ka 31 days, January ka 31 days, and February ka 10 days. That is roughly speaking 72 days. If my working is correct, 72 days hai. And every day you are putting in on an average 10.5 to 12 hours. Roughly 11 घंटे का तुम पढ़ाई कर रहे हो. On an average basis अगर मैं हिसाब मारूं तो 11 घंटे का पढ़ाई हो रहा है for 72 days at a stretch. So advantage is that if you try to do it like this, there's a possibility that you can comfortably complete the syllabus. You can complete the syllabus. You just have to ensure that you execute things properly. Weekly planning karo. At the end of the week, take stock. When I say weekly planning, I also mean that along with the timetable of studying at what time, also include the subjects to be studied. Now, what I would do is, let's say if I take this as an example, you categorize your subjects into theory and practical, as in subject like law, subject like audit is complete theory. Subject like DT, IDT, costing, whatever it is called as CMP या जो भी बोला जाता है, I would be thinking that it is a mixture of theory plus practical. Feel free to correct me if you feel otherwise. FR is also the same. Okay, so DT, IDT, costing, and FR also has theory, and it has a lots of theory, is what you're telling me. Okay. What about SFM? More of practical, less theory. Okay. And the elective paper, so it depends on what elective paper you choose. So I won't put it into any category. But the point is, why did I do this with you? If this is the planning that you are sticking to for the first week or first 10 days, study something like lawyer, 7:30 to 10. Then study 11:30 to 2. Law padho for 5 hours. And then as a combination, say you take SFM. Honest suggestion, DT and FR, these two subjects, don't study them in the first 20 days of December. It's a suggestion. Unless and until you feel you are damn strong in FR and damn strong in DT because of your practical exposure, then you can pick them up and study in the first 20 days. Otherwise, my suggestion is do not study them in the first 20 days. My logic behind this suggestion, I'll explain the logic also. After the first 20 days of December are over, as a student, you will have momentum. You would have been used to, you would have got used to studying for 10, 11, 12 hours a day, 11, 11 and a half hours a day. Now comes the time when you are full fledged going to study for, let's say, 11 and a half hours without any problem. Because now your body, your mind has been toned to that extent. Okay, I have to study. I have to sit from 7 to 10. No distractions. Because I am going to have a proper 1.5 hour break. So 7 to 10, I have to put in. Your mind will be mentally, your mind will be ready to sit. Your body will be ready to sit. You would have already done it for the first 20 days. Now, when the time comes to put your studies into the fourth gear or fifth gear and extend it from 10.5 hours to 11.5 hours, that is when you take DT and FR. After 20 days of December, so in the last week of December, in January, when you are so used to studying for 11, 11 and a half hours a day, that's when you take DT and FR. Those two subjects are lengthy subjects, heavy subjects. If you start with lengthy and heavy subjects right at the beginning itself, possibility is that your studies will get derailed because you'll get tired very soon. And maybe you won't be able to study for 10 and a half hours also. You might wrap up your day by 10 p.m. in the night because you're so tired, so exhausted, and you will lose out 1.5 hour of that day and every day thereafter. To start with something easy like law, like SFM. Why am I suggesting a combination of theory and practical? If you study only practical, suppose you devote the full day for SFM, that day will be very pleasant for you. But then there will come a day when you will have to devote the full day for law, which will be a horrible day. If you study one subject on a single day, तो कभी ना कभी SFM will get over. कभी ना कभी you will have to pick up law. कभी ना कभी you will have to pick up audit. You'll have to devote the full day for law, full day for audit. इतना theory nobody can study. So don't commit that mistake. That's why I did this categorization कि भाई according to you कौन सा complete theory है, कौन सा complete practical है, कौन सा theory plus practical का mixture है. So SFM plus law कर लिया. You do this for the first 10 days. So there is a possibility that maybe 10 days or 15 days, first 15 days, SFM gets over. Replace SFM by maybe let's say costing, replace kar do. And then study law plus audit, law plus SFM, law plus costing, then law will get over, so audit plus costing, then audit will get over, या costing will get over, तो IDT पढ़ लो. Depending on which subject gets over, replace it by another subject. Law got over, replace it by audit. SFM got over, replace it by another practical subject like costing. Costing में भी theory है, I know, but DT and DT जितना theory नहीं होगा. Costing compared to DT, I feel costing has more practicality than DT. Although costing also has theory. हाँ तो ठीक है 30% होगा 35% होगा but relatively speaking DT is more theory as compared to costing. So costing can be categorized as a slightly more practical subject. So replacement of SFM can be costing. My honest suggestion would also be that you study DT and FR for the full day. Matlab, if you pick up DT, so it has to be DT all 10.5 to 11 hours. Like this for 1 week. If you pick up FR, then it has to be all 11 hours for 1 week. or for 1.5 week. That week is going to be very terrible for you. But trust me, if you take up these things, DT and FR, in the month of January, first half of January DT पढ़ लिया, second half of January FR पढ़ लिया, या first 10 days DT पढ़ लिया, next 10 days FR पढ़ लिया. If you do this, then what will happen is subjects like DT and FR have a lot of interconnection. We were doing charitable trust and we had to, today's lecture, we had to go to appeal wala chapter. In capital gains, there is rectification. In PGBP, you can have rectification, you can have set off carry forward. In deductions, you have concepts of set off carry forward. MAT mein to you have PGBP also and capital gains also and special tax rates also. So if you are studying DT and FR mein, there can be like two Ind ASs can be simultaneously applicable, or you'll have to refer to various paragraphs of various Ind ASs. I mean, I feel that this could be the situation. So if you're doing that, these two subjects on a continuous basis, you will be able to study them and finish them start to finish. And by the time you have studied, say, 5 days of DT, sixth day, you will yourself start to feel कि हाँ ये second day पे पढ़ा था, ये देखिए point वापस आया. Capital gains connected with AMT, PGBP connected with AMT, capital gains connected with business trust. Then transfer pricing chapters has connection with application with assessment time limits. DTAA has deductions coming up. ATC का deduction आ सकता है, ATTTA का deduction आ सकता है. So like this, if you take up these two subjects on a continuous basis, you will study them more effectively. Again, something that I feel. You can probably start FR, study 2 days FR continuously, and if you get tired, you can still retweak your plan. FR के साथ कोई छोटा सा theory ले लो and study combination में. It's your choice. At the end of the day, it is your comfort. All this is just suggestion. If by any chance you are unable to execute this because you feel it's too much for you, you can change it as per your comfort. Try and ensure that you do that level of planning कि by 10th February तक syllabus हो जाना चाहिए. That will give you enough time to write papers comfortably and assess yourself, and then you will have 2 months to revise. March and April, you have 61 days effectively. 61 days. For these 61 days, 1st March 2021 to 30th April 2021, I would honestly suggest to pick up one subject, revise it fully. No combinations. No combinations for revisions. You can probably devote a week to each subject. You have 8 subjects. 7 days means 56 days. 8 subjects, 7 days per subject, 56 days. ये तुम्हारे पास 61 days है. 5 days का buffer निकाल लो. 56 days आ गया. Some days your health isn't that good. Some days maybe you're forced to study only for half day. Maybe some birthday, maybe some function. Maybe the health is not good, but health is not that bad, but not that good also. You might be able to study for half a day. So you keep 5 days as buffer and you use the balance 56 days. So you try to revise the whole subject within 7 days. Each day you can put in about 12 hours or maybe say 13 hours. And you will have about 84 to 91 hours for revision. So you have, like, if I give you DT ka example, the teaching time needed for DT as a teacher, as a faculty, I need any time between 220 to 240 hours. Depends on the batch, depends on the number of doubts, depends on the syllabus. Like our finance minister has just extended this whole syllabus to a great extent. Last attempt, that is November 19, I had finished the syllabus in what, 65 or 66 days. With you guys, I had to take more time because of the amendments in the budget and the COVID amendments. So roughly, it ranges between 220 to 240 hours effective teaching. Then if a teacher wants to torture you, you can go to 250, 260, 270 hours also. DT as a subject is unending. I can keep on teaching and you can keep on listening. But that's not exam oriented. Teaching takes 200 and 240 hours. I hope you understand that when you study for the first time, you won't take this much time. You will definitely not take 220 hours. नहीं तो पागल हो जाओगे. So you can finish this subject maybe say in 150 hours. Maybe. Every chapter is not going to be time consuming. PGBP will take probably 3 days to finish. But in the next 3 days, after PGBP, you can do set off, you can do deduction, you can do business trust, you can do AOP, you can do AMT, you can do MAT. So 6 chapters in 3 days is possible. One PGBP chapter took 3 days fully. And in the next 3 days, you finish 6 other chapters. Rectification, revision, appeals. All of this can be completed in one day. In one day of 12 to 13 hours, you can finish rectification, revision, and appeal. Salary, house property of IPCC, just go through it once. Because वो जो DT double A का chapter है ना, DT double A, where you don't have agreement with a country and on an average basis तुमको relief मिलता है. Questions that are asked is, एक employee का question आ जाता है where he has salary and he has some other income and then he has income from foreign sources also. तो salary थोड़ा बहुत revise कर लेना, basic concepts. Standard deduction has increased 50,000 rupees आ गया है. Some exemptions which you had studied at IPCC level, they are no longer applicable. Some perquisite valuation formula जरा दिमाग में बिठा लो. So like this, first study में salary, house property, clubbing of income, you can merge them with all these small chapters. Small chapters like AOP taxation, business trust. So in a day you will feel, अरे मैंने इतना सारा पढ़ लिया. Salary and house property and clubbing, I have given you notes. Textbook में self study करके notes है. So उसमें से पढ़ लो आप. I have given exactly IPCC notes only with the amendments applicable for your attempt. तो आपके पास second textbook में होना चाहिए if I'm not wrong. Second textbook में mostly होना चाहिए. Mostly second textbook में है. So my point is, as I was saying, कि every chapter is not lengthy. If I take 220 hours for teaching, first study you can finish it in 150 hours. So revision करते वक्त you will require 80 hours or so. So in 7 days you can आराम से finish DT. In 7 days you can आराम से finish FR. You are studying it again. And mind well, 1st March onwards you are studying. So मतलब तुमने DT का एक paper already लिखा हुआ है. At that point of time you have already studied DT. Maybe you were not able to complete the full syllabus in that 1.5 day. जब तुमने paper writing किया था February में. So in March, devoting more than 7 days would be a crime because it will affect your revision of other subjects, which is not advisable. Every subject is to be treated equal. There are many faculties which say that DT is the biggest subject and the most important subject. FR is the biggest subject and the most important subject. To be very honest, from a student's perspective, it is one of the 8 subjects. So you try to give importance to a particular subject because the faculty says so. The faculty's intention is to give importance to himself or herself by saying, oh, my sub. Yeah. I was speaking specific to my subject because I can be that specific and explain to you, okay, if teaching takes X number of hours, you will take X minus something and revision will be even lesser. Likewise, SFM, FR, law, audit, there'll be many small chapters and there'll be many huge chapters in each subject. So revision, if possible, just restrict it to 7 days so that you don't affect the revision of other subjects. It's common sense that if you're revising between March and April, you better keep FR towards the end only. So you can actually plan your revision for 7 days, for 7 subjects. From 1st March, start your planning. Exclude out, say, 5 days for FR or a week for FR. So last week of April is for FR. Now you count the balance number of days and divide the balance 7 subjects. Your exams will start probably 1st of May or 2nd of May. First week of May में exam start हो जाएगा. So last week of April should be reserved for FR studies. Then excluding FR, you can study up everything. You can revise up everything starting from 1st March. You can then go in a reverse pattern, start with IDT, then DT, or you can go in any other manner you want. That sequence is unimportant actually. Somebody who gets a study leave less than 5 months. Less than 5 months. If you're getting a study leave from mid-December. Acha, by the way, is there anyone who's getting
First January onwards.
1st January? That's
First
exactly.
January.
हाँ, that's what I was asking. January. तो January onwards अगर है तुम्हारा study leave, तो it's going to be a tough 4 months for you. January to April was ideal when I was a student about 12 years ago. Today the syllabus has genuinely increased. SFM has increased. FR though has been fundamentally increased. I mean, it has gone for a super duper change. Indirect tax has gone for a change because of GST and the number of GST amendments. So quite frankly, uh, 4 months was adequate a decade ago. Today, 5 months is adequate. If you have 4.5 months only, or if you have only 4 months, then my honest suggestion would be that try to finish any one subject, try to finish any one subject before your study leave begins. It could be a small subject, it's okay. Use the second half of Sunday and study. Saturday, if you get study leaves, so Saturday study kar lo. Every day, maybe say you pull on for about 1 hour extra, half an hour extra. I know I'm suggesting things which may not be practical, but I'm just saying if you can, try and study, try and finish one subject before 31st December. For guys who are start getting their study leave from January, try and finish one subject or one and a half subject before 31st of December. Practical subjects ले लो so that some solving at least हो जाए. SFM जैसा subject ले लो which is probably smaller, probably a smaller subject. Um, leave out DT, IDT, FR for the study leave. तभी के लिए छोड़ दो. SFM as a subject ले लो. Costing as a subject कर लो. If you feel your strength is costing, try and finish 1 to 1.5 subject up to 31st December for those guys who are getting their leave from 1st January. If some of you are getting their leave from 15th of December, so we are today standing on 1st of November. You have November as a full month, December ka 15 days before your study leave commences. Try and finish one subject ka study, one subject ka study. जो यहाँ पे करने वाले थे ना, ये वाला. Try and finish one subject before your study leave begins on 15th December. Advantage will be whenever you start your study leave, you will be mentally relaxed. Okay, I have to study only 7 subjects. I have to study only 6.5 subjects. Let me plan accordingly. How much of this you're able to achieve? To be very honest, I don't know. Work pressures, you may not get enough time to study naturally. Due dates keep on getting extended, so work pressure keeps on getting extended. These are factors beyond our control. We can only plan. But the intent of that planning is that if your study leave is beginning from 15th of December and you are done with one subject, then from 15th December, when you're full-fledged into study leave, you just have to plan for 7 subjects. If your study leave is beginning in January, then you try to finish 1.5 subject. So that 1st of January, you are mentally going to plan for 6.5 subjects. And for these guys who are getting less than 5 months of study leave, you will have to straight away start with 11 hours a day, 11.5 hours a day. This study pattern of 12 hours might have to be executed a bit early for you. For the first week of your study leave, you might sit for 10.5 hours, but from the second week itself, you will have to start putting in 12 hours. So that 10th of February ka target is achieved and you are able to write papers at the correct, appropriate, apt time. Writing papers in the month of March does not make much sense. It will eat up your revision time. And if you have to write papers in March, you cannot devote 16 days for paper writing. Then you will probably have to write papers daily. 8 days. So there, that will be like to it won't be effective. तुम क्या करोगे? You'll write a paper on 1st March, 3 hours. Balance of 1st March you'll study for the tomorrow's paper. 2nd March, you think that much of study time is sufficient for CA final subject? So paper writing will actually demotivate you, because when you sit to write the paper, you are not adequately prepared, and that's why the 10th of February is so important. Okay, from 11th February to 20th February, taking a proper 1.5 day, you are studying and then you are writing the paper. It is a mock that you are giving of May 2021. इसीलिए 10th February अचीव करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Paper writing once is enough. You don't need to write papers more than once. Very honestly, paper writing once is enough. Huh. What you could probably do is, if somebody feels that writing paper once is not sufficient, तो तुम कुछ ये कर सकते हो. It's an alternative suggestion. It is not something that I would universally recommend. Every student may or may not follow it. But 1st March 2021 से लेके 30th April 2021, ये जो आपका रिविजन टाइम है ना, in this revision time, write a second paper for your weak subject, only for your weak subject. For somebody, if DT is weak, you understand the lectures properly, but when it comes to applying the section, applying it in a particular situation, you don't go right that many times. Probably because you've had articleship exposure in audit and in accounting. You've not had that much DT exposure. You've not done those many tax audits. You've not filed those many returns. So maybe DT practical exposure is not that great. Theoretically, you understand. You sit the lecture, you understand. You read it from the textbook, you understand. But when you solve questions, you probably don't. You're probably not that correct that many times. ऐसा हो सकता है. तो DT का पेपर आपने फरवरी में लिखा. You studied it in the first 72 days. Then you wrote the paper also. You still are not that confident. No problem. In the revision time, devote 1 day for DT. Revise DT 7 days enough के पास. Revise DT for 6.5 days, and then write a paper of DT for 3 hours. Up, that is one way in which you can write a second paper. Don't write a paper for all 8 subjects. It does not make sense. You will eat up your revision time. जरूरी नहीं है. It's not necessary. It's not required. Honestly, where you are weak, where you genuinely need paper writing practice, only write a second paper for that subject. Then how do you manage your time? If DT is your weak subject, but let us say costing is your strong subject, then maybe you can give 6 days of revision for costing, and that 1 day saved can be used in your weak subject ka preparation. Only thing that will happen is that in those 6 days of costing, you will have to slog a bit extra. But let's come to the reality. From 1st March to 30th April, you are anyways in the mood for slogging, because you are on the verge of your battle. You have given 2 years of articleship to reach CA final. You have already studied from December or January up to March. Now you are anyways going to go in the 5th, 6th, and the 7th gear. So putting it 1 more hour extra for those 6 days for SCMP is not going to make much of a difference to you. It will make a positive difference that you will be able to save 1 day for your weak subject, but you will not have any problem in devoting 1 hour extra for 6 days. तो second paper writing कुछ ऐसा कर लो तुम. Okay, and the last thing that I'll speak, then if you guys have any doubts, we'll discuss that. Shoot, relating to this planning कुछ हो तो बता देना, we'll discuss it. By the end of November month, November 2020, I will be giving you a question bank. It will contain questions of past exams, practice questions which are not exam questions, but for practice they are needed, updated as per Finance Act 2020, and all these amendments that have come about. मार्च में अमेंडमेंट आया, जून में आया, सितंबर में आया, ड्यू डेट्स हैव बीन एक्सटेंडेड सम a week or 10 days ago. Taking into account everything, taking into account all your amendments, by November end, question bank का hard copy will be with you guys. And by the end of December, you will get a book called as summary book. You have 4 textbooks with you, 4 textbooks. Those 4 textbooks, each textbook is ranging from 300 to 350. Fourth textbook is about 400 pages. So on an average, you have about 1300 sides to read in DT, anywhere between 1300 to 14 on an average. You can't study from all those 4 textbooks one day before your exams. So I will be giving a summary book to you where chapter wise everything will be summarized in the form of chart, tables, theory, point wise. Amendments will be separately highlighted. The summary book will contain a separate chapter where all the amendments will be put together. And those amendments will be there in the respective chapters also, but a list of amendments will be there in the summary book. Question bank will help you in practicing. Use this question bank when you study for the first time, first study, जो आप दिसंबर से फरवरी में करने वाले हो. You studied a chapter, solved the sums of the classwork textbook, go to the question bank, sum solve कर लो, that's it. The question bank will contain descriptive questions also, and it will contain MCQs also. It will contain MCQs also, all amended as per your budget. So question bank updation will take time. After, my primary target is to give you question bank so that a student can start studying the subject. And therefore I'm supplying you with the question bank first and summary book later, because summary book anyways is going to be used a bit late. So I can take up some time and prepare a very effective summary book which can be helpful. But the primary motive is to give you the question bank. Therefore, this sequence, that first I'll give you the question bank and then the summary book. You don't need to refer the module for DT. Referring the module for DT is my job. Referring the module, putting the module in the textbook and in the summary book and in the question bank, वो सब मेरा काम है. You don't have to refer DT. तुम बस मेरा book use करो, that's it. Main book, first study. Revision maybe you can use the main book. Important topics, you can highlight it. You can study from the revision, the March to April revision that you will do. You can study it from our main textbook also. You can refer the summary book at that point of time also. That's your choice. By December end, the hard copy will be in your hands. So you can glance through the summary book and you take a call when to use the summary book. During revision, during your paper writing, in during exams May month में, वो कभी यूज करना है वो आपका प्रेरोगेटिव है, that you decide. Up to December 2020 you will get these 2 books. And the last thing, whenever the CA Institute comes out with a statutory update and a judicial update, whenever it comes out with these two, we will have a Zoom app lecture like this at a time convenient for all of us. Maybe after the institute releases these two, a week or 10 days later, we will have this Zoom app lecture where I will discuss the statutory update and the judicial update. There is a possibility that there are some new case laws, there are some new amendments with which the institute prescribes, and we may not have covered those case laws and those amendments in our textbook, in our lectures. Then we will take them up for a separate, it might be a 3 hours lecture, maybe on a day, or maybe if I require about 5 to 6 hours, we'll spread it over 2 days. I will upload those lectures on YouTube also. So anybody who is not able to sit in the lecture, you can view it on YouTube. During your exams, if you want to look at those videos and have a quick revision, you can go to YouTube and have a look at the videos. So that will be the only lecture that is pending. Statutory update, judicial update, वो pending रहेगा. Once the institute comes out, we will have a formal lecture. You're able to attend the formal lecture, wonderful. Not able to attend the formal lecture, absolutely no problem. You will get the video file from YouTube. बस मेरी साइड से I am done with speaking about planning and all. Anything that you would like to ask me?
For
Sir,
the
sir,
for the elective paper, which subject would you suggest? मतलब कौन सा
Okay.
easy हो?
Uh, for the elective paper, Rahil had asked me this thing, and I always give this suggestion to every student who's asked me. I give a two-way approach. First, try and select an elective paper which is more close to your practical exposure. If a student has done IND AS in your articleship, GFRS becomes your choice. If you have not done IND AS as much as you like, then do not go for GFRS. If you have a good exposure of DT, then you go for international taxation. If you like theory, if you feel theory is your strong point, go for economic laws. Uh, that is the first criteria. Second, the the exercise that I had suggested to Rahil, I'll give it to all you guys also. Anybody who wants to select an elective paper can do this thing. Sunday, you generally get the second half free. And elective paper is always an open book exam. एक काम करो, download an elective paper from the institute's website with its suggested answer and download institute ka study material for that paper. Don't study anything, straight away solve the paper. Do not bother about whether you know the subject or not, because anyways it's an open book exam. Na? Just listen to my idea. You have to solve, you have to devote about 2.5 hours for this. Of all the elective paper options that you have, streamline on any two or maximum three options based on your articleship exposure, based on your like or dislike for theory, like or dislike for practical subjects. Select up any 2 to 3 papers. And on a Sunday, take any one subject, devote 2.5 hours, and just try and solve the question. And try and check whether, number one, you were able to find the relevant provision from the study material. Number two, how much of the question were you able to get correct? Like if somebody wants to do this exercise for international taxation, we have finished our DT lectures. Everything that I've done with you in international taxation is equally relevant, equally applicable in the elective paper. Plus, elective paper will have some advanced concepts. So today, if you open an elective question paper of international taxation, there will be many things which will be familiar to you because तुम्हारा paper 7 का lectures हो चुका है. Pick up that elective paper, take the elective paper का study material, institute का study material ही ले लो. Try and find out that if the question is asking you something about section 94B, are you able to solve it on your own without studying? Are you able to locate that section in the study material and apply the relevant subsection and solve the question? Are you able to do it or not? Via this exercise, if you are able to reasonably solve 50% of the paper correct, then it means that is a subject that you should go. Because even without a formal study, if you can get half the paper correct, open book, then with a formal study, you can definitely score in that paper. If your performance is very dismal, if your performance is very bad, that means that paper is not the paper you should go for. You should probably do this exercise for some other paper also. Maybe you can do better. Like you can do international taxation on one Sunday, you can do economic laws on the other Sunday, you can do capital markets on the third Sunday, and then take a call. Try and select such an elective paper which will reduce the size of your study. Sir, what do you mean by this? You anyways are going to study 7 full-fledged subjects. Take the elective paper, which is such a paper that there is more content of overlapping. Now, from the knowledge that I have about the elective papers and the discussion that I've had with students, capital markets is a theory paper and it has very less overlapping with SFM. But economic laws wala jo paper hai aapka, that is also a theory paper and it has more overlapping with the subject of law. Then if someone is strong in theory, then it would be advisable to go for economic laws because then it reduces your study time for that elective paper. You don't have to devote 10 days fully for studying elective. You can probably finish it in 7 days. क्यों? क्योंकि overlapping content ज़्यादा है. So select an elective paper which will reduce your study time, reduce your revision time. That much pressure you will have less on you. This is the general advice that I give. You still have time to select कौन सा पेपर करना है, तो you can do this exercise कि किसी भी particular दिन तुम ये पेपर सॉल्व करने का ट्राई करो. Anything else?
Sir.
Amendment for November 2021. See, November 2021 and May 2021 budget is the same. Budget is absolutely the same. So that means कि by textbooks तो will be the same. And as far as the other amendments are concerned, so like there is a judicial and statutory update for May exam, there will be for November exam also. So I will be giving you a video for that also. Any other changes that come about, rest assured मेरे साइड से तुमको सारा amendment, सारा support मिल जाएगा. So वो आपको पूछने का जरूरत नहीं है कि will you provide or not, वो मिल ही जाएगा आपको. Yes, you might have to give me a reminder कि सर November 21 में मेरा attempt है, amendments कब तक ready हो जाएगा. So that is a normal reminder that I would want you to just put it to me. बाकी from my end it's a commitment, आपको मिल जाएगा.
Sir, so whatever मेरा initial thinking ऐसा था कि जो आपने 2 महीने का 2 बार study बोला, जो second revision is of 2 months. So what I was planning from December, Jan, Feb and March. तो वो 4 महीने में मेरा first reading and first revision, which is जो आपने बोला ना 56 days वाला.
Okay.
तो and April के पहले जो 18 days है, उसमें that 2 days of paper writing. So I was planning that कि अगर 2 readings हो जाएगा, we'll be sure.
Okay, the assumption that you will be sure is positive, but what if something goes wrong in the paper writing that you're doing in the first 18 days of April? Do you have time to rectify yourself? मैं एक example देता हूँ. Suppose you ignored a question. Suppose you ignored a chapter in your study. You ignored it out of choice. You ignored it because you didn't get enough time. And you find out in the month of April when you're writing the paper that that chapter has some really difficult questions coming up in the recent past. In the recent past. अब तुम्हारे पास time है rectify करने का. Because first 18 days of April are gone. Last April will be for FR. अब तुम क्या करोगे? Your 18 plus 7 25 days तो चला गया. बीच का 5 दिन है.
उसमें कितना कर लूंगा? उसमें
तो कितना कर लेगा? So you will put unnecessary pressure on yourself. Whereas in my plan होगा क्या कि तुम्हारे पास मार्च है, अप्रैल है, and for each subject you are giving 7 days of revision.
हाँ.
So now in those 7 days you can incorporate all the deficiencies in your first study, all the deficiencies in your paper writing, and cover them up. Any shortcoming, any deficiency that you had in the first study and in the paper writing can be covered up. You have time to cover it up.
Yes.
पेपर राइटिंग शुड एक्ट एज अ मोटिवेशन. ये तो तेरे प्लान में क्या होगा, तू डिमोटिवेट हो जाएगा और साला बैंड बच जाएगा. मतलब तू बोलेगा साला अब मैं अप्रैल में है, कितना कर लूंगा वो तो छोड़ दे, ये नहीं आता, वो नहीं आता, ये नहीं आता, पेपर लिखा तो फट गई. हाँ, तो ऐसा मत.
हाँ
सर. हेलो.
हाँ हाँ बोल मैं सुन रहा हूँ.
हाँ सर, डीटी मतलब फ्लो क्या फॉलो करे डीटी में, किधर से स्टार्ट करे मतलब टेक्स्ट.
हाँ, तो स्टडी डीटी फ्रॉम द पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू ऑफ somebody who sees this subject as a law. I would always suggest computation पहले करो, assessment बाद में करो, international tax end में करो. If you observe, this is the way I have taken lectures also with you. If you remember any random lecture of assessment procedure, I was taking examples of PGBP. Rectification of mistakes में मैंने section 32 का example लिया था. Income escaping assessment में I had taken examples के PGBP, PNL बनाया, indexation, etc. You will compute income using all the computation chapters, heads of income, MAT, AMT. Then you will go to assessment. That is the department doing it. Then even in appeals का chapter, I had taken examples of depreciation, capital expenditure, revenue expenditure. ऐसे सारे examples लिए थे. What I was doing was teaching assessment to you using the knowledge that you already had. So as a student, what you were thinking was कि हाँ मुझे पता है कि सेक्शन 32 ये है, 35 ये है, 48 ये है, 80I ये, 80IB, 80IC ये सब कुछ है. Okay, I'm aware. Ab how is it impacting my assessment? How is it impacting my appeal? So you were able to understand that those things better because you already knew the basics. So follow the sequence of computation first of all, then go to assessment. International taxation is something altogether different. It's a separate 30 marks. And in international taxation also assessment related topics are there. Time limit extend ho jata hai, relating to transfer pricing. DTAA में you have computation mechanism coming up. Residential status तो non resident resident उसमें भी तो तुमको basically international taxation ही करना है, but you must be aware about heads of income. So I would suggest that you do international tax at the end, not as a second thing. At the end. तो computation पहले कर लो, assessment second चीज कर लो. हाँ, TDS का chapter जो है ना, TDS tax deducted at source, that chapter you can do the way I did it with you after doing assessment wale chapters, or you can do that TDS ka chapter before you start return of income, because TDS ke chapter mein what you are studying is tax deduct kab hota hai, so that you can do in the computation part also, heads of income ke sath, or you can do it before you start international tax. That much liberty you can take, wo aapke comfort pe depend karta hai. Any other questions?
So even वो जो टेक्स्ट बुक दिया है सर आपने, should we refer like मतलब which all sections, मतलब what all to refer from text book? जो सेल्फ स्टडी टॉपिक्स है वो रेफर करेंगे, that would be enough. And
मुझे नहीं समझा तू एग्जैक्टली क्या बोल रहा
सर
था.
मतलब सर ये हैंड रिटन नोट्स तो आपके है ही, so
अच्छा, how did you study inter CA?
सर योर हैंड रिटन नोट्स एंड वो टेक्स्ट बुक भी देखा था.
But in inter CA you were studying subject for the first time, so your primary source was the notebook, and wherever necessary you used to go to the textbook, correct?
Yes, yes.
अब तो खुद सोच ले how much you have changed from inter to final. Today you can read the section. Now textbook becomes primary because you can observe DT में मैंने पूरा income tax act ही print कर दिया है.
Yes.
Handwritten notes में you would have observed मैंने examples डाले हुए हैं, but मैंने वहां पे reference दिया है, refer theory on so and so page.
Yes.
There are certain examples where time limits are counted. There are certain examples where if this is satisfied तो ऐसा होगा, if this is not satisfied तो वैसा होगा. ये मुझे कहाँ से मिला? Section read करके. तो now at CA final, textbook becomes primary and handwritten notes become secondary. But you will have to refer both. वो textbook तो पढ़ना ही पड़ेगा आपको.
सर तो कैन वी गो विद द फ्लो. आपके हैंडरिटन नोट्स में और उसमें जिधर लिखा है कि थियरी आपको ये पेज से पढ़ना है तो वही सिर्फ आपके टेक्स्ट बुक से पढ़े.
You can do that. But उसमें क्या होगा? हाँ, उसमें your study will be slightly restricted. I'll tell you कैसे. If you take handwritten notes to begin with, तो तुमने handwritten notes में suppose कोई एक example पढ़ा, तो you study the example, and in that example मैंने कुछ ऐसा लिखा नहीं, refer theory, refer करके कुछ नहीं लिखा. That means you're studying an example, you're not studying the section.
Yeah.
So your will be thinking कि okay मुझे ये example समझ गया, it means मुझे ये section समझ गया, which may not be always true, because suppose तू section भी पढ़ता है and then first you read the section and then you come to the example, तो तुझे कुछ doubt आ सकता है कि ये वाला example तो सर ने नहीं किया, लेकिन सेक्शन में बैठता है. अब वो डाउट आएगा तो मेरे पास आएगा. हाँ. या वो डाउट तो अपने आप सॉल्व कर लेगा कि अच्छा सर ने नहीं किया क्योंकि ये किसी अदर सेक्शन के साथ ओवरलैपिंग है. या फिर ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि मैंने उसको विजुअलाइज नहीं किया हो, बट मैंने तभी नहीं किया, किसी और चैप्टर में कर लिया. या फिर तेरे डाउट में ही मिस्टेक हो कि ऐसा पॉसिबिलिटी ना हो बट तूने वो पॉसिबिलिटी सोचा हो. ये सब कुछ भी पॉसिबल. योर माइंड विल बी फोर्स्ड टू थिंक इफ यू रीड द टेक्स्ट बुक फर्स्ट एंड देन द हैंड रिटन नोट्स जिसमें से एग्जाम्पल मिलेगा. इफ यू डू रिवर्स यू विल बी स्टक टू दैट हैंड रिटन नोट्स का एग्जाम्पल. मतलब तू उस एग्जाम्पल का गुलाम बन जाएगा और तेरा माइंड एक्स्ट्रा नहीं सोचेगा क्योंकि तू थियरी पढ़. तो प्रेफरेबली टेक्स्ट बुक फर्स्ट.
So the sir we can also do that कि दोनों साइड बाय साइड रखे और जैसा थियरी
साइड करके पहले थियरी पढ़ा, उससे रिलेटेड एग्जांपल पढ़ लिया और खत्म किया.
हाँ बाद में नेक्स्ट प्रोविजन वैसे हाँ
हाँ वैसे नहीं पढ़ना है भाई. आई वाज सेइंग कि पहले थियरी पढ़ना है और फिर वो थियरी को सपोर्ट करने के लिए जो एग्जांपल है वो करना है.
ओके सर या परफेक्ट.
हाँ. अच्छा, as far as MTP and RTP are concerned, when you revise the subject in the month of March, April, you should refer MTP, RTP at that point of time. उसका advantage क्या होगा? You will come across new questions in March and April if you study MTP and RTP at that point of time. If you study mock test paper and revision test paper at the time of first study only, then what will you revise? Revision के वक्त you will not have new content. So maybe you can do like this. At the time of revision, and now I'm not talking my subject, now I'm talking generally. At the time of revision, I'm sorry, at the time of first study, you can probably refer to revision test paper of past attempts. And as far as your attempt revision test paper is concerned, study it in the March and April month. RTP of your attempt should be studied in March and April for revision purposes. Mock test paper of the institute, March and April. But old mock test papers, old RTPs that you can use for your paper writing के वक्त जो पढ़ाई करोगे तभी, first study के वक्त करोगे तभी. अभी फॉर एग्जांपल लॉ एंड ऑडिट है या कोई और सब्जेक्ट है जिसमें यू डोंट फील इनफ प्रैक्टिस इज देयर, you don't feel that the material that you have is enough for practice, so pick up old RTPs. Keep your RTP as something new for you, fresh for you for revision purposes, so that revision के लिए भी study material ready है आपके पास. और कुछ? Anything else?
I'll individually call you in a week after.
हाँ आराम से, वो तो कभी भी कॉल करो. 30th अप्रैल मतलब एग्जाम तक कभी भी कॉल करो. इफ यू गेट स्टक विद एनी पर्टिकुलर स्पेसिफिक प्रॉब्लम, आराम से. दैट इज अब तक जो बोला उसमें से इफ यू कैन थिंक ऑफ एनीथिंग अभी पूछ लो.
सर डीटी के लिए लाइक व्हाइल वी आर स्टडीइंग फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम यू सेड 150 आवर्स मतलब कंट्रीब्यूट करेगा, सो अप्रोक्स 10 to 12 days, 12 to 13 days जाएगा ना, लाइक इफ कंटिन्यूअसली वी स्टडी.
यस उतना जाएगा. अबाउट रफली तो अगर एवरेज आउट करता है ना तो यू हैव 72 days टू स्टडी 8 पेपर्स. अगर मैं 1 दिसंबर से चालू करूँ तो ऑन एन एवरेज 9 to 10 days का हिसाब तो कर ही लेगा तू.
हाँ
तो फिर then you have to increase the number of study hours. तो 10 hours 12 hours, तो वैसे 10 दिन तो तुझे डीटी में जाएगा ही जाएगा. 10 से 12 दिन तो डेफिनेटली जाएगा. उससे ज्यादा अगर हो सके तो मत डिवोट करना. Ideally, if the study leave is from January 2021, first study should be over by when? If one small subject is done before January 2021. See, if your study leave is January 2021 na, then probably this plan can be tweaked to some extent. Okay, I honestly feel that if you are getting a leave from 1st January, then 10th February तक syllabus complete नहीं होगा आपका. It is not possible. Final CA is that vast. तो एक काम कर सकते हो आप, try and take it up to February end. January and February first study properly 2 महीना करो. Assuming you finish 1 or 1.5 subject, for the balance subjects also you will need 2 months का time proper. रिविजन टाइम में थोड़ा कर्टेल कर देना. पेपर राइटिंग थोड़ा जल्दी जल्दी कर लेना. मे बी वीक पेपर्स लिखो. पेपर राइटिंग जैसे मैंने सजेस्ट किया था कि भाई रिविजन के वक्त पेपर राइटिंग कर लो, वो थोड़ा एडवाइजेबल नहीं है, बट अगर वो तुम्हारे पास को और कोई चॉइस भी नहीं है, बिकॉज फरवरी एंड तक तो तुम स्टडी कर रहे हो, फिर मार्च 1st से 30th अप्रैल मतलब तुम्हारे पास वही 2 months है, तभी पेपर्स लिख लो, वीक सब्जेक्ट के पेपर लिख लो. थोड़ा पेपर राइटिंग में कट, यू कैन कट कॉर्नर्स इन पेपर राइटिंग, बट स्टडी तो प्रॉपर्ली कर लो इज व्हाट आई फील. सो इफ यू आर गेटिंग अ लीव फ्रॉम 1st January and you're able to finish off 1.5 subject, preferably 1.5, and let's be realistic, नवंबर दिसंबर 2 महीने हैं आपके पास. 2 महीने में आप 1.5 सब्जेक्ट तो कैसे ना कैसे करके प्रिपेयर कर सकते हो. थोड़ा सा हेक्टिक हो जाएगा, आई अग्री, बट यार वो कर लो so that January and February become a bit less hectic. Imagine the pressure that you will have if you have to study 7 papers or 8 papers in January and February. तो rather than focusing on the preparation, your focus will be 10 दिन में इतना करना ही है, नहीं तो बाकी सब्जेक्ट्स खत्म नहीं होंगे। उतना प्रेशर अपने पे मत डालो। नवंबर एंड दिसंबर में थोड़ा टाइम मैनेज कर लो एंड 1 to 1.5 सब्जेक्ट कंप्लीट कर लो। ऐसा भी कर सकते हो, मतलब मेंटल साइकोलॉजिकली इफ आई एम प्लेइंग, एफआर कंप्लीट कर लो बिफोर यू स्टार्ट योर स्टडी लीव। मतलब दिमाग से एक प्रेशर निकल जाएगा, मेरा एफआर तो हो गया। अब यू विल बी ऑन अ डिफरेंट लेवल कि भाई एक बड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट सब्जेक्ट हो गया है, अब मैं लड़ाई लड़ लेगा, अब मेरे को बाकी का 6.5 पेपर्स ही देखना है। एफआर बड़ा सा सब्जेक्ट हो गया मेरा। आई नो इट इज अ वेरी एम्बिशियस प्लान, बट एक बड़ा सब्जेक्ट या 2 छोटे छोटे सब्जेक्ट्स या 1.5 छोटे सब्जेक्ट्स, ऐसा कुछ कर लो तो फेब्रुवरी एंड तक तुम खींच सकते हो अपना स्टडी। फर्स्ट स्टडी कैन बी टेकन अप टू फेब्रुवरी एंड। बोलो जी, और कुछ? ठीक है, चलो। सो ऑन द व्हाट्सएप ग्रुप आई विल कीप ऑन गिविंग यू अपडेट्स अबाउट क्वेश्चन बैंक, समरी बुक, अपना स्टैट्यूटरी अपडेट वाला लेक्चर। थैंक यू वेरी मच गाइस। 11th अगस्त से लेके 1st नवंबर, इट वाज अ लॉन्ग लॉन्ग जर्नी। आई होप जितना आईपीसीसी वाज प्लेजेंट, सीए फाइनल आल्सो लेक्चर्स हैव बीन that pleasant. Take care, study well, health का ध्यान रखना, because otherwise you will not be able to study that greatly if you don't have that great health. As important as studies are, health is also that important. Take care. November attempt के बाद also ensure that you just go through the papers of November so that you get a trend कि भाई कौन से सब्जेक्ट में क्या क्या चैप्टर्स इंपॉर्टेंट है। दैट विल आल्सो गिव यू अ हिंट कि व्हेन यू स्टडी किस चैप्टर पे ज्यादा फोकस करना। मे बी द प्रोफेसर वुड हैव टोल्ड यू दैट अ पर्टिकुलर चैप्टर इज इंपॉर्टेंट एंड दैट चैप्टर इज इंपॉर्टेंट, बट सम अदर चैप्टर बिकम्स इंपॉर्टेंट फ्रॉम आईसीएआई's पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू। सो यू आर नॉट लेफ्ट आउट। आईसीएआई का नवंबर 2020 का पेपर देख लोगे तो यू विल गेट एन आइडिया के ओके सम चैप्टर्स डू कम अप इन द पेपर ऑल्दो ट्रेंड नहीं है, लेट मी स्टडी इट। ऐसा कुछ हो सकता है कि समथिंग अनएक्सपेक्टेड, सम गूगली कैन बी देयर फॉर अ नवंबर स्टूडेंट। यू कैन हैव अ लुक एट द पेपर बिफोर यू अटेम्प्ट योर एग्जाम्स। चलो, टेक केयर।
सर सॉरी, लास्ट क्वेश्चन।
हाँ, बोलो बोलो बोलो।
सर आपको क्या लगता है कि ये टाइम का पेपर इज बिकॉज ऑफ कोविड, तो एनी विच वेज जॉब प्लेसमेंट्स आर लेस एंड 2 अटेम्प्ट वाले साथ में है,
हम्म
तो पासिंग परसेंट मतलब इन द सेंस के नंबर ऑफ स्टूडेंट्स हु गेट पास्ड in our attempt or anything?
to be very honest to be very honest, institute is unpredictable in this. See, I'll tell you kaise. Can you say with reasonable guarantee that the paper is going to be difficult?
Yes.
If yes, so which paper is going to be difficult?
कोई भी हो सकता है वो तो।
That you cannot guarantee, that
Yeah.
you cannot predict only, guarantee तो छोड़ दे। अच्छा, now if the institute comes out with all easy papers तो क्या करोगे? But it can make the checking difficult.
Yeah.
But you can come out with difficult papers and checking फिर easy की
Lenient.
तो भी तुम पास ही नहीं होने वाले हैं क्योंकि पेपर गॉट डैम डिफिकल्ट था।
हाँ।
सो कितना परसेंटेज पासिंग होगा, कितना परसेंटेज पासिंग नहीं होगा, कौन सा डिफिकल्ट पेपर होगा, प्लस ऑल ऑफ अस आर अवेयर कि इंस्टीट्यूट के पेपर चेकिंग में देयर आर ऑलवेज क्वेश्चन मार्क्स रेज्ड। सो दोस फैक्टर्स ऑनेस्टली आर नॉट दैट रेलेवेंट। जॉब मार्केट का क्या होगा, नोबडी कैन प्रिडिक्ट, नोबडी कैन प्रिडिक्ट। तो वो सब छोड़ दे। फर्स्ट थिंग इज के क्लियर हो जाओ फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में, फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में क्लियर हो जाओ। बिकॉज एक सिंपल सा एडवांटेज है, जॉब मार्केट कुछ भी होने दे, इवन इफ इट्स अ बैड जॉब मार्केट, बट इफ यू हैव अ क्वालिफिकेशन यू कैन स्टैंड इन द जॉब मार्केट एंड आस्क फॉर अ जॉब ना।
या
अगर एक ग्रुप क्लियर है, एक ग्रुप क्लियर नहीं है, तो फिर जॉब मार्केट अच्छा हो तो भी तुझे क्या फर्क पड़ा, और बुरा हो तो भी तुझे क्या फर्क पड़ा। सो ट्राई एंड इंश्योर दैट यू क्लियर आउट एवरीथिंग। यू मे हैव सी इट विल गिव यू अ बिग एडवांटेज कि मई 2021 में क्लियर हो गया ना, तो बाय जुलाई 21 या अगस्त 21 यू कैन स्टार्ट योर करियर। प्रैक्टिस हो, जॉब हो, टीचिंग इंडस्ट्री हो, कंसल्टेंसी हो, कुछ भी हो, यू कैन स्टार्ट योर करियर। yes yes, I'll keep this timetable in the notes, I'll separately give this timetable, I won't delete it, ये रखूंगा मैं। so as I was saying, first attempt पे clear होना is more important। हाँ, अब अगर कुछ god forbid something goes wrong and May 21 में you are not able to clear a particular subject or a particular group, तो that is anyways not in your control। कोविड सिचुएशन हो गया, या फिर तुम्हारा ही हेल्थ बुरा हो गया, इवन इफ इट्स नॉट कोविड, या फिर कोई पर्सनल ट्रेजेडी हो गया, तो दोस थिंग्स आर एनीवेज बियॉन्ड योर कंट्रोल, तो फॉरगेट इट। बट प्राइमरी टारगेट या ओनली टारगेट इज फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट क्लियर करो। डज नॉट मैटर कौन सा तुम्हारा फेवरेट सब्जेक्ट है, किसमें क्या मार्क्स आया, एट द एंड ऑफ द डे यू जस्ट इंश्योर कि भाई 8 पेपर है, 800 में से 400 आ गया ना, फिर वो 410 है या 425 है, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. हाँ, इफ यू गेट अ रैंक, it's going to give you a tremendous boost in your career.